Good morning, friends, and welcome back to Wake Up and Worship. We are starting each morning this week out with a fish joke because we're looking at big fish stories in the Bible. And so our joke for today is, why are fish easy to weigh? I'll give you a second. Because they have their own scales, right? You weigh yourself on a scale, they're covered in scales. Okay. I know, fish jokes are a little cheesy. It's okay. Right now, it's time to stand up and wake up and worship.
It up again with a spark. The spark caught fire in my heart, and I can see it lighting up the dark. And now it's burning brighter than ever. It's down deep in my soul. The fire burning out of control. It's love and I gotta let it show. It's changing my world for the better. So raise one hand high, throw your light in the sky. We're gonna keep it shining forever. Oh, it's brightest when we're shining together. This little light up, I'm gonna let it shine. And in the darkest, I'll be the brightest. No covering up, no shutting it down, no blowing it out. I'm gonna let it shine. I'm gonna let it shine. We're shining brighter than the sun. We're lighting up the world for everyone. And no, we're never quitting, never done. We're only getting brighter and brighter. So raise one hand high, throw your light in the sky. We're gonna keep it shining forever. Oh, it's brightest when we're shining together. This little light up, I'm gonna let it shine. And in the darkest, I'll be the brightest. No covering up, no shutting it down, no blowing it out. I'm gonna let it shine. I'm gonna let it shine.
This little light of mine, maybe it used to be little, but now it's a wildfire. It's growing bigger and bigger and bigger. Can't shut it down, can't blow it out, can't hide it now. It's shining around the world and getting hotter now. So throw your light up, come on, raise it higher. We're gonna start a fire, it's only getting brighter. So burn bright in the night for the world to see. This little light is bringing change and it
So
starts with
raise
me.
one hand high, throw your light in the sky. We're gonna keep it shining forever. Oh, it's brightest when we're shining together. This little light up, I'm gonna let it shine. And in the darkest, I'll be the brightest. No covering up, no shutting it down, no blowing it out. I'm gonna let it shine. I'm gonna let it shine. This little light up, I'm gonna let it shine. And in the darkest, I'll be the brightest. No covering up, no shutting it down, no blowing it out. I'm gonna let it shine. I'm gonna let it shine. One shot, one chance, one life to live. Yeah, I wanna make the most of it. Everywhere I go, I got eyes on me. People checking if I'm living out what I believe. I'm alive and I'm forgiven. Let all of the love that you have given be what I give away. Yeah, every day. Lord, this I pray. Lord, this I pray. Let the world see you when they look at me. When they look at me. When they look at me. Let the love of God be all they see. Yeah, all they see. Yeah, all they see. One God, one King, one name above. Always giving it up to the one I love. Let the world see you when they look at me. And when they look it's you I praise. I'm alive and I'm forgiven. Let all of the love that you have given be what I give away, yeah, every day. Lord, this I pray. Let the world see you when they look at me, when they look at me, when they look at me. Let the love of God be all they see, yeah, all they see, yeah, all they see. One God, one King, one name above, always giving it up to the one I love. Let the world see you when they look at me, and when they look at me, let them see you, Jesus. I'm gonna shine in the dead of night, a city on a hill shining bright. I'll be a light for the world to see when they look at me, and when they look at me. Even brighter than the morning sun, can't hide what your love has done. I'll be a light for the world to see when they look at me, and when they look at me. When they look at me, and when they look at me. Let the world see you when they look at me, when they look at me, when they look at me. Let the love of God be all they see, yeah, all they see, yeah, all they see. One God, one King, one name above, always giving it up to the one I love. Let the world see you when they look at me, and when they look at me, let them see you, Jesus. Let the world see you when they look at me, when they look at me, when they look at me. Let the love of God be all they see, yeah, all they see, yeah, all they see. One God, one King, one name above, always giving it up to the one I love. Let the world see you when they look at me, and when they look at me, let them see you, Jesus.
All right, welcome back. If you've been with us this week for Wake Up and Worship, you know that we're looking at big fish stories of the Bible in honor of our theme this month, which really focuses on Jonah getting up and going God's way. Jonah doesn't do that at first, but thankfully he ends up calling out to God from the belly of the fish, and God rescues him. We look so far this week at a time where Jesus actually uses Jonah's story to teach us that we need to be looking to Jesus to save us, that he is our sign, and that when we hear the message of Jesus, we should listen and follow him. Unfortunately, the religious teachers don't do that, and he tells them there's going to be consequences for that. We actually see what those consequences are in the story that we looked at yesterday, which is where Jesus talks about the kingdom of heaven like it's this net where fish are caught and then separated. The good fish stay, the bad fish are thrown out. That's how heaven is. The fish that are covered by the blood of Jesus and are righteous, not fish, people, are the ones that get to stay in heaven, and the others are thrown out to hell. So we want to be righteous people, good fish that are followers of Jesus. And so today we're going to look at another fish story. This one is pretty cool. It comes after Jesus died on the cross and rose from the dead. This is actually the third time the Bible tells us that Jesus appears to his followers after rising from the dead. Now, if you were with us last month when we looked at this around Easter time, you might remember that when Jesus shows up after rising from the dead, a lot of times he's not recognized. And it is no exception today. The same thing's going to happen. Jesus shows up, and at first, the disciples don't know who he is. And so we are in John chapter 21. John is also a book of the New Testament. There's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John that are all gospels that talk about Jesus' time here on the earth. So John 21, the disciples are fishing. It tells us that they actually go out at night. It's nighttime and they're fishing. Now, you might be wondering, why are they fishing? Well, remember, a lot of the disciples were fishermen before they followed Jesus. We're actually going to look at that a little bit later this week. But they were fishermen, and so here they are. Jesus is gone. They need to do something. They are fishing. It says that they fish all night, and it says they caught nothing all night long. It says in verse 3. So they've been working hard all night. They're probably exhausted, but they haven't caught even a single fish. That's crazy. Verse 4 tells us, at dawn, in the morning, when the sun's coming up, at dawn, Jesus was standing on the beach, but the disciples couldn't see who he was. He called out, "Fellows, have you caught any fish?" And so it's Jesus up on the beach. They don't see who it is. They don't realize it's him. He calls out, "Hey guys, did you catch anything?" They answer him and say, "No." He says, Throw your net on the right-hand side of the boat and you'll get some. And so I imagine they had their nets on the left side of their boat, and Jesus tells them, okay, throw it over to the other side and you'll catch some fish. Now, if you're a fisherman, that's what you do, and you're pretty good at it, and then someone comes along and says, oh, just throw your fish on the other side, or your net on the other side of the boat. You'll get some fish. You'd probably think they were crazy, because those same fish that are swimming right there on this side of the boat, like, they're right there on the other side of the boat. Like, that shouldn't make a difference. It says they do this, though. They listen. They throw their net out on the other side of the boat. It says they couldn't haul in the net because there were so many fish in it. They throw the net out on the other side and they try pulling it in, and they can't even get it into the boat because it's so heavy and full of fish. It's a miracle. Like, it's not that all of a sudden that was the answer. It's that Jesus is there and he's God and he fills their net full of fish. So they have all the fish that they need and can be done fishing. Okay, so this happens. They try and pull it into the boat and they can't. It's too heavy. It says in verse 7, then the disciple Jesus loved, that's John. So John said to Peter, it's the Lord. When Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put on his tunic that he had taken off for work, jumped into the water, and headed to shore. Okay, all these disciples are in a boat. They don't realize who's talking to them. Once the miracle happens, they realize it's Jesus. John says to Peter, hey, Peter, it's Jesus. Peter hears that it's Jesus and immediately jumps out of the boat and runs to shore. Now, what's funny is it says the others stayed in the boat and pulled the loaded net to shore because they were only about 100 yards from shore. They weren't super far, and they were all heading in. They were all going to get to shore eventually, and they needed to bring this big load of fish to get there. But Peter can't wait. It doesn't matter that it's only going to take a minute or 2 minutes or 5 minutes. It doesn't matter. Peter needs to go right now because it's Jesus there on the beach. I love this story. It goes on. There's more to it. We can actually learn a lot from different parts of it. It's a really cool chapter. Read it, John 21, maybe later on. But I love this part of the story because we see that John is there. John loves Jesus, and he realizes it's Jesus. He loves Jesus so much. He's the first to recognize, hey, that's Jesus. Look at this miracle. I know that's God. He's the first one to recognize it. But Peter, he might not be the first to realize it was God, but as soon as he did, he can't hold back. He can't wait. He jumps out of the boat and runs to shore to be with Jesus. He wants to be right where Jesus is. Now, friends, if you go to the beach or you go fishing, Jesus isn't going to show up like on the shore and you have to jump out of your boat and run to him. That's not what we learn here. We can't exactly follow Peter's step in that way, but here's what we can do. All month long, with the story of Jonah, we're looking at how God knows us and has a plan for us, and we can trust that plan. We're supposed to go God's way, not our own way. Jonah doesn't do that at first, and when he goes the wrong way, we learn that we can call out to God, we can pray, and he'll help us go his way. Now, in the story of Peter, as soon as Peter realizes where Jesus is, he runs and he is right there. The same thing should be true for us. Part of following God's plan is just looking around and saying, where is God working? Where is he working? Because I need to go be part of God's work. That is God's plan for our lives, that we would join him, telling other people about Jesus and teaching them how to follow him. Remember the Great Commission? So we're supposed to look around and go, where's God working? Where's the need for the Great Commission? And as soon as we see it, as soon as we realize where Jesus is, where God is at work, what his plan for us is, nothing should be able to hold us back. Be like Peter. Be the first one there to follow God's plan. Don't be afraid of getting wet. Don't be afraid of getting messy. Don't be afraid of leaving your fish behind and not having them anymore. None of that matters to Peter as much as Jesus. Nothing should matter to us more than Jesus, and following God's plan, joining him in his work, telling other people about Jesus, and teaching them how to follow him. And so when you see that God is working, and you feel God speaking to your heart and saying, do this, Go tell this person about Jesus, or do this. Go love on this person this way. Serve them in this way. Be a friend here. Be a good brother. Be a good sister. When you hear that, don't wait. Be the first out of the boat. Jump out and run straight to God, following his plan. That's part of what Jesus as Lord really is all about. It's realizing, okay, Jesus is my Lord. He's my boss. He's my master. Whatever he says, that's what I'm going to do. I want to be right there with him, following his plan each step of the way. And so in this story, be like Peter. Be the first one to run out of the boat and go meet Jesus. Be part of God's plan and where he is working. I'll see you tomorrow, friends, at 9:45.